So you know the ones when you're listening to a song that you really like and you're like, that's my tune. That's my tune. Hey, this is Jojo B and this is another episode of That's My Tune, episode 6. Hi. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to drop a bonus episode just because. So a couple of days ago, we were walking to Ms. Desire's Doing Me, which was released in 2018, 2 years ago. Thank you, Ms. Desire, for that lovely soca track. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I decided, you know what? There's an R&B song that I really want to talk about. I love it so much. And I think it's about time I add this to my podcast. What's the name of the song? Take Your Hand by Usher. So I'm just going to let the song play. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the groove because it's very, the groove is insane. And once that's all over, then I'll come back to discuss why I like it and so much more. All right, I'll be right back. So let's give it up one time for Usher. Yay! Now, of course, he's not on a Zoom call with me. And no, he's not here with me in person, but oh well, maybe next time. So that is Usher, Take Your Hand. I love that song so much. That was released in 2004 on what I believe, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, his biggest album, Confessions. You could not escape that album even if you tried. I mean, it was everywhere. And I'm sure you're probably wondering, Jay, there are so many popular hits that you could have chosen from that album to talk about. There's Yeah, there's Burn, Caught Up, Superstar, Seduction. And I'm aware of that, but I don't want to cover those right now. One, they're too obvious, and two, I just don't want to do that right now. I feel like Take Your Hand is like the underdog. Oh, and another popular one is Throwback. Throwback is dope. Just Blaze really did a good job on that one. But we'll get back. Maybe I'll do that one another time. Like the way you use the sampling, just like, but anyway, I'll stop. So yes, I'm aware there are other popular songs, but I decided Take Your Hand is going to be, because I've been listening to that song throughout this year and I just can't go over how dope that song is. So yeah. So 16 years ago, Take Your Hand was released on this lovely, lovely album that just sold millions and got everybody's attention. Remember when Yeah dropped? I mean, you could hear those bells in the distance. I remember one time I was walking somewhere and you could hear those, before you knew it was Yeah just by those bells. Like you really was like, I was walking somewhere and you could just hear in the distance from somebody's car and I was like, yep, that's Yeah again. So yeah, Take Your Hand. It dropped 16 years ago in 2004. And what I'm going to do is split this into two sections. So I'm going to talk about the beat first and then the vocals because, you know, we want to be organized up in here. So yeah, I love how simple the instrumental is. There's sometimes when you listen to a song and the instrumental has so much going on, and it's not a bad thing. Like if you take a live band, for example, there are so many musicians who are playing and it sounds dope because they mesh well together. The instruments don't clash, and the mixing engineer, they're also able to balance the sounds. Same with a music producer. They choose so many sounds and possibly samples as well. They put it together well, they level it up, and the mixing engineer does his thing, and so does master. So there are times when an instrumental, when it has so much going on, you can appreciate it, it's needed, and you love it. But then there are also times when an instrumental is simple and you like it and it's needed, especially when the vocals has its chance to shine. And I feel like with this particular song, the vocals have their chance to shine. And I'll get to the vocals in a moment. So I feel like that's why the producers decided, you know what, we're going to strip this beat back. We're not going to have too much going on. And we're just going to let the vocals speak. So I really appreciate that. So let's break this down a little bit. I noticed that apart from the horns, the majority, if not all, of the other instruments are dry. When I say dry, there's no reverb, there's no delay, there's nothing. Obviously, EQ has taken place, so all the frequencies are balanced out well in the mix. But outside of that, there's no other effects going on there. So that's one thing I noticed. Now, let's take the verse, yeah? You got the drums, and oh, I love how crisp the open hi-hat is. Oh, and it just, when it comes to the fourth count, you just look forward to it and you're like, tss, it's just, oh, yes, love it. You have the horns that come on the first count of the bar. And then you have the bass line. I love the bass line. It's so singable. The melody just carries the verse, and I absolutely love it. It sounds like a loop or sample. I'm not sure if they got a live bassist to play it, and maybe they decided, okay, we're going to make it sound like it's a loop from somewhere. I don't know, but whatever the source is, I love it anyway. It's so singable. It's just like dun, 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 dun. So then once you get to the hook, the horns are replaced with MIDI guitar. And in case you're wondering what MIDI guitar is, for those of you not really into music production, it's basically a fake guitar. It's played with a MIDI controller. So you have your plug-in, you choose your sound, you choose a guitar, a sound that sounds like guitar, and you play it. So you know the chords that go da-na-na, da-na-na. That's the MIDI guitar that's playing. You also have a clavie, which is very subtle in the mix. And I think it's just one single note that plays. I'm like, oh, okay, I wonder why they played the clavie in there. And the bass, you know that loop that's going on in the verse, is literally chopped in half. So all you hear is the dun 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 dun. So that bit is looped throughout the chorus. So it's not the whole bass line that you hear in the verse. Right, cool. So let's talk about the bridge. There are changes that take place there. So that looped bass line that you hear in the verse and part of the chorus, that's not there. It's been replaced with another bass line altogether. So another sound has been chosen and they play another melody for the bass line. So I thought, okay, the horns continue, so that's not eliminated in the bridge. There's also the addition of pizzicato strings. I thought, oh, okay, interesting. And more the lower register, but then towards the end it goes up a little bit. And then there are a few chords from an organ. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool, no problem. So those are the major elements I clocked whilst listening to the song. I was like, okay, cool. Again, I just love how sparse the beat is. There's not too much going on, which allows the vocals to shine, which I'm now going to talk about. So let's discuss Usher's lead vocal first of all. It's very commanding and it's very strong. And when I listen to it, I hear a hint of reverb, I think possibly a tiny bit of delay and some distortion, but it's not a lot, but it's there, it's subtle. But the BVs are dry, there's no reverb, there's nothing. Again, it's just absolutely dry. So those are the things I noticed where the vocals are concerned. Now let's look at the hook, the BVs of the hook. The first two bars is just a higher octave singing, take your hand, let go, take your hand, let go, right? And then when you get to the third bar, the lower octave comes in with a few more BVs to accentuate that. And what I love is in the hook, there's like this inner conflict that is being displayed. So when he sings, take your hand or let go, then it goes, do I take your hand or let go? I can't take it anymore. So it's like it's like you're in Usher's head and he's like, okay, I have this decision to make. Do I take her hand or let go? Should I and I love that dynamic that goes on there. Another thing I noticed is in the bridge. The bridge, I could talk about all the layers going on, but there's one in particular I want to highlight. So, you know, at the end of the bridge, they're singing build. So it's like, build, build. So you have the alto that comes in, and the second time build is sung, then the soprano comes in, and then the third time the tenor comes in. And I love the tenor part is like, build, build. I was like, oh, I love that. See, and I love little quirks like that. And when they're singing build, it's like on top of that, Usher is singing in falsetto and doing all his ad-libs and riffs. And it's just such a dope moment in that part. I mean, I rewind that part so much. Let me just tell you something, yeah. I'm a geek. I'm a nerd when it comes to this stuff. Do you understand what I'm saying? I love taking songs and just breaking them down apart like I'm doing here. When you get to the final chorus, when he's singing take your hand or let go, take your hand, all you hear is the octave. So there's no more, do I take your hand or let go? You know, you don't hear that anymore. It's just continually singing, take your hand or let go, take your hand or let it go. So it's like he's no longer having that inner conflict. It's almost him just sitting there by himself thinking, do I take your hand or let go? Do I take her hand or let it go? It's like it's just him saying it by himself without that other, yeah, I'm sure you know what I mean. There are just one or two things I don't like, right? yes, I know this podcast is about tunes that I do like, but there's some elements that I'll talk about that I don't like if I find any. So there. So the vinyl crackling, I hate the fact that it's throughout the whole song. If it's in the intro, calm, no problem, and maybe towards the end, but I don't like the fact that the vinyl crackling is throughout the song. To me, I find it too distracting, and I think it takes away a bit from the simplicity of the track. Maybe if it was a bit lower in the mix, then okay, I would allow it. But I don't enjoy that part, to be honest. I also don't like that the song is too short, but I'm thinking that this song was an album filler. So, usually for those who are not really aware, when you're putting an album together, like the artist will record so many songs. So let's say the average album has, like, say 10 songs, right? They usually record a lot more. And what happens is that there's a process where the artist, the producer, and so on, they'll come together and be like, okay, we've recorded like 30 songs. We need to whittle it down to like the best 20. And then, okay, work at the dynamics. Okay, we might take this one, we'll take that one out. We're not sure about. So those are the kind of processes that take place. Coming back to this song, I believe it was an album filler that made the cut for this album. I wish it was a little bit longer because it's like under 3 minutes long. I'm like, why? But I guess this song has said its point it's short and sweet. He's presented this point short and sweet. I also wish there was a visual for the song, but again, it's an album filler, so, Or what could have happened is, maybe have a small sample of the song before, like say Burn or before Caught Up, or you see, like a couple of weeks ago I did Busta Rhymes and I mentioned how I got to know about Everything Remains Raw because they played a short snippet of that before Woo-Ha. So I believe they could have done that. Like Caught Up would have been like a perfect moment for something like that, because I do believe in Caught Up there's a part where they're driving in a car, so they could have played that before, or even Burn, they could have played it at some point in the video or before, after, or something like that. I don't know. I wish even if there wasn't a whole visual for it, it could have featured in one of the many popular hits that came out that year, one of the visuals. But hey, what do I know? So that is my take on Take Your Hand from one of the biggest albums of 2004, Confessions. I mean, you don't even have to be a big R&B fan to know how big that album was. And it produced so many hits, like everywhere. Like that album got rinsed in my house. It got rinsed. And I'll never forget it. There are just so many gems. And the funniest thing is when I first started listening to that album, when it got released, I don't think I ever listened to this song, or if I didn't really pay attention to it because, back then you're focused on the bigger songs, like the bigger hits. Do you see what I'm saying? But as time has gone on and I've listened to the whole album over and over again, and I hear the song, I'm like, wait, hold on a minute. This song's dope. This song's all right. So yeah, I mean, this podcast, I won't always talk about the popular songs. Sometimes I might pick songs that may not be really well known, full stop. And sometimes that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you don't have to go with the crowd. Sometimes just be different and unique, you know what I mean? So you know what? I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Just like the song, which was under 3 minutes. I know my podcast episodes tend to be about 20 minutes or so, but I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Like I said, it's a bonus episode, so, sometimes you have to just know your limit. You know what I mean? So I'm going to end it here. Yeah? So next Tuesday, as per usual, an episode will come out. But until then, I just thought, let me just bring this filler. Do you know what I mean? So where can you find me? You can find me on Twitter, Ms. JoJoB, MZJOJOB on Twitter. And you can also follow That's My Tune in the following ways. That's My Tune Pod on Twitter. That's My Tune Podcast on Instagram, and email that's my tune podcast @gmail.com. So I hope you enjoyed this episode and the previous 5. Tell a friend to tell a friend. If they haven't got Spotify, get them to subscribe and listen to this goodness. So enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll be back next Tuesday with another episode. Bye. Bye.